So Samsung's fresh new Galaxy A52 5G mid-range mobile has wandered into frame at a kind of awkward time. For 400 quid you get some very respectable specs indeed, including a punchy AMOLED screen, you've got a quad camera setup, and of course that 5G support, all wrapped up in a water-resistant frame. Unfortunately for Samsung, the rather bloody wonderful Poco F3 was unleashed on the world mere days after the launch of Samsung's mighty mid-ranger, serving up a big performance boost for 70 quid less than the Galaxy A52 5G. So yeah, Poco may well have taken a huge steam and elephant dump all over Samsung's parade, but is the Galaxy A52 5G still a worthy alternative to that Poco F3? Well, I've had my SIM slapped inside this mofo for the last few days, testing it out as my full-time smartphone, so here's my in-depth Galaxy A52 5G review, and for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, like that aforementioned Poco phone, the Galaxy A52 5G's design is a simple affair, focused more on functionality than dazzling you with iridescent effects. Admittedly, there's very little here to excite or arouse, but at least you can pick up the Galaxy A52 5G in Samsung's slightly over-enthusiastically described awesome blue or awesome violet colours, as well as the bog standard white and black. This is a 6.5-inch smartphone, and thankfully those bezels aren't too chunky, but you would still struggle with one-handed play if Samsung hadn't mercifully added in some gesture tools to help out. God bless them. And I definitely approve of that IP67 water resistance, which is a rare treat at this price. This allows you to fully submerge the Galaxy A52 5G for a short period, so for instance you can sink into a nice hot bath and relax with some anime of your choosing. No stress at all about accidentally dropping the bugger in. And yeah, the arse end and those edges are completely constructed from plastic, but so far, touch wood, after a week of rough handling, not a single scratch or chip or anything like that. Aesthetically, it is boring, but it is in one piece. Now, Samsung fans will already know what to expect from the software, as you once again have that OneUI launcher smothering Android 11. And the exciting part of this all is that Samsung has promised owners of the A52 smartphones that you will get at least 3 guaranteed OS updates and 4 years of security updates on top of that as well, which sure beats the heck out of most manufacturers' update promises. And yeah, sure, I'm guessing that those security updates might well drop in frequency quite dramatically after sort of 2 or 3 years, but that sort of lifespan is fantastic, and especially when other manufacturers such as Motorola are rather blasé about updating their existing smartphones, it's just an extra bit of peace of mind. The Galaxy A52 5G comes packing 128 gigs of storage with micro SD support up to 1TB in that second SIM slot, so you can install a bugger load of apps. And as usual with Sammy phones, you'll get plenty pre-installed as well, including stuff you never asked for, like Facebook and TikTok. And yeah, as usual, Samsung has doubled down on all of these Android services as well. So the Galaxy A52 5G, for instance, comes with 2 app stores, comes with 2 contactless payment methods, 2 voice assistants, 2 smart home hubs, 2 porn finders, or internet browsers as normal people call them. It's kind of a ball ache if you're not balls deep in that Samsung ecosystem, but I can understand why it's now a necessity. And it's good to see that Samsung has thrown on that Knox security suite on here as well, just to help keep your privates private. Speaking of security though, it ain't all great news, as the face recognition usually takes an age to recognise you like some kind of drunken school friend you haven't seen in decades. And if you're working with less than perfect light, then just forget it. And that fingerprint sensor built into the display isn't the swiftest either, and occasionally balks up, so you'll definitely need some patience at times when you're unlocking this thing. Gotta say though, with the exception of that built-in fingerprint sensor, I've got zero complaints with that 6.5-inch Super AMOLED display. Now, Full HD plus 2400 by 1080 pixel resolution means sharp images will greet your peepers every time, complete with Samsung's trademark colours that positively pop, although you can opt for a more natural output in the display settings if you prefer. Definitely a good one for your Netflix and your Disney Plus and all that good stuff, although there is no HDR streaming support here. That's another area where sadly the Poco F3 has the advantage, but at least for this 5G model, Samsung has bumped up the refresh rate from the 90Hz found on the standard Galaxy A52 to a full Billy Big Bollocks 120Hz effort. And as usual, because this is an OLED panel, you got full always on display smarts on there as well, and it's completely customizable. Now, the Galaxy A52 5G may technically sport a stereo speaker setup, but that earpiece ain't exactly pulling its weight here, and on top volume the clarity definitely takes a hit. But hey, at least you actually get a headphone jack on the A52 5G, unlike most of Samsung's premium smartphones, so what are you complaining about, eh? You've also got a bit of Dolby Atmos fine-tuning on this thing, just to tickle those highs and lows depending on what you're actually up to, boost the audio experience. And I had no issues whatsoever with the Bluetooth 5.0 connectivity. This thing's got great range on it to produce some great sounding audio. In fact, the only audio issue I had here on the Galaxy A52 5G was people complaining they couldn't really hear me clearly when I was speaking with them on Skype, but I did test out the mics using the built-in recorder app, and that picked up my voice absolutely fine, even over a bit of a distance, so I'm guessing that's more down to software issues than hardware. So on to the performance then, and while the cheaper Poco phone boasts a fresh Snapdragon 870 chipset, here you get the older Snapdragon 750G platform, which also powered last year's Xiaomi Mi 10T Lite, and in the A52 5G that's backed by 6 gigs of RAM. And yeah, sure, I did see the occasional little pauses and judders when I was using the likes of the camera app, but overall, the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G can handle everyday life without collapsing in an asthmatic heap. And gaming is perfectly possible as well, as long as you don't get too carried away. The likes of Call of Duty Mobile and PubG will run just fine with a strong frame rate on higher detail settings, but do not expect the same returns from more demanding titles like Genshin Impact. Even on those default medium settings with Samsung's priority gaming mode active, I saw plenty of judders and stumbles from the Galaxy A52 5G. If you want a future-proof phone for gaming on whatever you like, then check out that Poco F3. And I'll tell you what, Sammy's blower does at least boast sub 6 GHz 5G support, which is something that the Poco F3 doesn't have, so yahoo, sucks to you, Poco. Oh, and when Samsung introduced the Galaxy A52 5G, it reckoned that you'd be able to get 2 full days of battery life between charges, which I admittedly dismissed as being about as likely as pulling in a nunnery. But to be fair, I've been impressed by the battery returns here on the A52. It will give you 2 days just about if you stick to the bare basics. I'm talking about messaging, web browsing, and not very much screen on time. But the main thing is that even if you absolutely hammer this smartphone with lots of gaming, media streaming, app play, all of that good stuff, lots of screen on time, you should still be absolutely fine. You should still have some gas left in the tank by the time you crawl into bed at night. Now, the joys of having a Snapdragon running the show instead of some god-awful piece of shit Exynos. The good times do stop rolling when it comes to the charging though. It's only 25 watt fast charging here on the Galaxy A52 5G, not particularly impressive. And even worse, Samsung, while it has actually bundled a charger in the box, it's only a 15 watt charger, which is proper lame. Another area where I expected the Galaxy A52 5G to beat that Poco F3 is the optics, with a flexible quad camera setup slapped on that awesome blue arse. The 64 megapixel primary sensor serves up 16 megapixel photos courtesy of the 4-in-1 pixel binning, complete with some nice optical image stabilization to keep things sharp even if your hands are about as still as the average Haribo stuffed 5-year-old. Which unfortunately the A52 5G doesn't do a great job of capturing, by the way. You'll certainly see some motion blur even at a distance. Still, if you can actually convince your subject to not move about, which is much easier if they happen to be something like a banana, then your quid's in. You can expect plenty of detail packed into each shot and low noise even when lighting is ambient, while manual brightness tweaking comes in handy with high contrast scenes. Plus, the 5 megapixel depth sensor contributes to gorgeous looking portrait shots with a lovely spot of bokeh action. Other bonus features include a night shot feature that does definitely help to brighten up your subject quite considerably. And I do still like Samsung's single take feature, though it's less reliable here compared with those S21 flagships. Some of these rip stills are surprisingly out of focus at times, and others are just, what the hell is this, Samsung? Come on, you're not even trying. This is some 4 AM high on coffee and barbiturates shit right here. The Galaxy A52 5G also packs in a 12 megapixel ultra-wide angle sensor, and this spaffs out average looking pics with the usual edge distortion, while detail levels and color accuracy definitely take a hit, although nothing too dramatic and not as bad as some rivals. And yeah, you've got a 5 megapixel macro lens because that's still apparently a thing. On the video front, you can switch between those primary and ultra-wide angle shooters at 4K resolution, although it's not exactly a seamless transition. And you could also crop in 2 times, which keeps things pretty sharp still. My test clips looked rather good on the whole, with decent audio pickup, and you've got Samsung's Pro Video mode on hand if you want to tweak the visuals, although you are missing tools like that smooth pan zoom. As for the 32 megapixel selfie cam, well, that's a solid enough snapper, even in those ambient indoor environments. You've got Samsung's usual wide angle mode, which makes a massive difference as you can see here, plus those portrait smarts for a lovely bokeh effect once again. So that in a nutshell is my review of Samsung's Galaxy A52 5G smartphone, and overall quite an enjoyable, quite a likeable little blow. It's just a shame that it came along at the same time as that Poco F3, which I've got to say I am more drawn to, especially with that performance boost. But at least on Samsung's blow, you got the likes of the 5G support for a bit of future-proof in there. And of course, you've got that water-resistant design, which again is a rare treat at this price point. So in the end, as usual, it does come down to personal preferences and priorities. But what are your thoughts on the Galaxy A52 5G? And especially if you've been using it as your full-time smartphone, it'd be great to hear your own mini review down in the comments below. And which color did you go for? Did you go for the awesome blue like me? Maybe a bit of awesome violet? Whichever you opted for, I hope you think it's suitably awesome. And for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a fantastic rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.